If you overload your trailer, the scissor hoist won't be able to handle it, but these types of cylinders can. It's because this is rated for 12 tons. It is a solid one-piece sheet bed that with a full trailer, I should be at 1,400 pounds, right about there. Hey, it's Brock here with Rock Hill Farm, and today we're gonna do a walk around of my new 7x16 dump trailer. And I want to try to tell you everything that I wish I knew before buying my first dump trailer. Now, for perspective, as far as my experience with dump trailers, this is the third different full-size dump trailer I've owned. Plus, I've got a good friend that's been letting me use his smaller dump trailer. I've rented them. I've got a dump trailer that goes behind my side-by-side. I've done a lot of projects using a dump trailer. I've done a lot of videos on hauling equipment in dump trailers, making a side income with a dump trailer. I've kind of seen it all with dump trailers, and I learned a lot from the first two trailers that I bought that did not have features that I think are absolute must-haves. So we're going to walk around this and talk about the things that I think you should be looking at if you're looking at buying a dump trailer. Now, the first thing to keep in mind is this is a very expensive purchase. Now, this trailer I'm showing you today has a lot of what I would call premium features that I think should be on every dump trailer, but this trailer is not at a premium price. So let's take a walk around and look at it. The first thing you have to decide when you're looking at a dump trailer is how big to go. Now, that depends largely on what you're going to be hauling. If you're hauling equipment, you need a longer trailer like this one. Once again, this is 16 feet long. So that makes it convenient for actually taking your machine to jobs. And that depends on the type of jobs you have. I hauled a full-size skid steer on a regular basis in my last 7x16. But if you're just hauling rock or dirt, 7x12 is plenty big because a 12-foot by 7-foot bed will allow you to get enough material in there that you hit your weight limit long before the bed's full. Now, if you're doing junk haul off or brush haul off, you want to maximize the bed because you could fill this thing up with brush at a 7x16 and not even be close to hitting your weight limit. So material really matters. If you say, I'm specializing in hauling dirt and driveway stone, 7x12 is going to max out the capacity on a truck like mine, which is a 3/4 ton diesel. So that's the first thing you've got to decide is how big do you need the bed to be? Now, personally, I always get 14K dump trailers with two 7,000-pound axles. To run this truck in my state without a CDL, I can't have the entire rig weigh more than 26,000 pounds. But I do not need a CDL just for the fact that this trailer by itself weighs over 10,000 pounds. That varies by where you live, and you need to do your own research. Now, everyone calls these 14K dump trailers, but the GVWR on this is 15,400. And normally, your trailer manufacturer has the option to rate this below the axle rating or above within certain limits. So your GVWR on this is 15,400. That's 10% over the rating of the axles, which is 14,000 pounds. And the reason you can safely and legally do that is these axles can carry 14,000 pounds. And then your truck carries 10% of the weight of this load. So if you set this up where, including the weight of the trailer, you have a total of 15,400 pounds, the truck carries 1,400 pounds, the axles carry the other 14,000 pounds, and you're not overloading your axles. Now, my first two dump trailers I bought 100% with my own money. This one from Liberty Trailers is sponsored. The other day, I did a factory tour and showed every step of the process of how these trailers are made and how they are maintaining their quality level, and I was so impressed with the factory. I'll put a link at the end of this video to the factory tour if you want to check it out. Their trailers are American-made and commercial grade, and I can vouch for that. So your first decision is how big do you want your trailer to be? That depends on your tow vehicle and what you're going to haul. And as we talk about the weight capacities, I want to talk about safety a little bit. The most dangerous situation I ever found myself in when hauling was when the rock at a rock yard got put a little too far back and my trailer went crazy on me because I didn't have enough tongue weight. And after that, I got WaySafe trailer hitches that tell you exactly how much tongue weight you have. I know what my trailer weighs. I know what the contents of my trailer weighs in theory, so I can know how I'm balancing my load. And if I don't know exactly how much my contents of my trailer weigh, I can find that out using the WeighSafe hitch. If I load my weight centered on the trailer and then come up and read this gauge and take it times 10, that'll tell me how much weight's behind me pretty darn close. So with an empty trailer, it's not even registering on the gauge. But whenever you load this down, you'll see that this gauge runs up and tells you that with a full trailer, I should be at 1,400 pounds, right about there. And I'll demonstrate that the first time I haul with the trailer. There are a ton of features on a trailer like this that you need to be paying attention to, but rather than trying to prioritize them, I think we'll just start at the front of the trailer and walk our way back. So right here we have our plug for our trailer lights and our trailer brakes, and this one is magnetic. I think that's a cool feature, help keep it up off the ground when you're not using it. Little things, right? Just little things that make a nice difference for you. The next thing I want to point out is this hitch mechanism. Now to take that off is going to require me to show you this aftermarket piece that I've already added on day one. This has the standard jack handle that comes with the trailer. It's a nice handle. I've used that type of handle for years. It's pretty simple. I mean, we've all seen these before. You just crank the handle, it raises and lowers. Not a thing in the world wrong with it, but I've got this other product that I think is better. I've been using this on my other trailer for a while now, and when I got it, I didn't know if I'd like it, but after running it, I love it. So we're gonna put down our drop leg on the jack, and then we're just gonna stick the drill on here and run it. So I've been using this to raise and lower my trailer for weeks now, and I haven't had to switch batteries yet, but I just keep this drill under the seat. I've always got, you know, extra cordless drills. That saves you a little bit of time running that up and down, and you can use this as a manual crank handle if you need to, or you can pop it off and put your other handle in if your battery's dead, but this is pretty handy. So this quick system here really is pretty darn handy, that you don't even have to lift this up to set your ball on. A lot of the premium trailers have this style here now. So I pulled the truck away from the trailer to demonstrate one other thing on the hitch, but we do have a locking toolbox here, and it's a big toolbox. There's some area over here where I could store ratchet straps. I could put stuff like that over there. I can put my handle in it. You can have a second battery if you want to make sure that you never, you know, have your battery run down during the day. They've got it set up for that. And then of course you've got your charging port here if you want to use this charger to keep your battery up. And then you could always put a solar charger on top as well. But I actually opened this up, besides showing you the controls and the pump and the fluid reservoir, I want to show you this, which is a proprietary setup from Liberty Trailers. This is an anti-theft mechanism. So I've got these keys right here, and there's a locking pin right here. Pop that lock out, and this is the same kind of locking trailer pin that you would have, you know, on your hitch if you choose to. Then this now slides out. Now, one thing that means to me is I've got this standard size receiver tube that I could actually use for other things. For instance, I plan to pull this around the property with my tractor sometimes, and there might be a situation where using this receiver is a convenient way to connect. But you just put that in, drop this down, and lock it. Now, if someone wants to steal your trailer, they have to come equipped with a ball or with a receiver. And they've got to cut that lock off, and you've just made it a lot harder to steal the trailer. Some of this stuff might seem like, well, that's obvious, it's a standard feature, but you want to make sure, if you're buying an absolute cheapest dump trailer you can find, you want to check all this stuff and make sure, you know, a good heavy-duty set of tow chains that are rated for the application, that are the right length, and clip up like that for storage. Our safety breakaway switch is on a little retractable cable here that's just the right length to clip on next to your tow chains. And You know, if you have a breakaway problem, it's going to hit the brakes on your trailer. So the next thing I want to talk about is the lifting mechanism. There are 3 main types of lifting mechanisms that can be used on these dump trailers. I've used them all. You've got the 2 small cylinders on each side. That, I mean, they all work, right? But to me, that's by far the most problematic. You can have issues if one side has more strength than the other. They're smaller cylinders and they're further up under the trailer. They do not give you the lifting power that you need. The next system is the scissor hoist. I've had 2 trailers with scissor hoist before, and they work, but once again, you know, we're all trying to be smart and safe and load our trailers properly and not overload them. But what I can tell you is sometimes you're loading material and you don't know how heavy this material is. And I'm trying to estimate by the number of buckets full. I can check the gauge, but I've overloaded a trailer a couple times to the point that my scissor lift would not lift it. Even though I could still pull it, I had to actually get up there and shovel for quite a while. And running a shovel inside of your new dump trailer is not as fun as it sounds, being honest. Now, to me, by far the best system is the straight vertical lift like this on the front. And if you think about it, let's say you order 20 tons of gravel from a big end dump and you know your big truck comes in here to dump. What kind of lift is it going to have? A little scissor hoist up under the bed or a straight vertical lift like this? All the big trucks, the dump trucks, are running these straight verticals. And that's because they're better for this application. They just cost more for the manufacturer to build it that way. But like I said, this trailer is not coming in at a premium price. It's priced right where everyone else is, but it's got that premium cylinder on it. So I'll go ahead and pull our control out here. These are always really simple. There's an up and a down. Now, I like to run this into my cab so that when I'm using the 3-way tailgate to tailgate out material, I can raise this as I drive forward. Now, there are 2 easy ways to do that. You can get a wireless kit. You know, I've never seen one that came with a wireless, but you can add a wireless remote to them pretty easily. Or, really cheap, you can get an extension cable. You unscrew this, put a second cable in there, and it'll run all the way up into the truck window. And that's what I've done with my dump trailers in the past. It's got a little cutout here that drops into, so you can still close your tailgate or your toolbox lid. And then we're going to run this up. I don't know how that feels to you on video, but it feels fast to me standing here. Normally when I'm cycling something like this in the video, I'm going to speed the footage up just to keep the video shorter. But in this instance, I want to show you exactly how long it takes to run this. Now, did you hear that sound change? That's because these cylinders kind of nest inside of each other. And first it runs fluid through the bigger section, and then it's got a smaller section. And when you hear that sound change, it means it's transitioning to another part of the lift cylinder. And it actually, once it goes to that smaller diameter section of the lift, it'll run a little faster. Wow, I'm in shock. That lifts twice as high as my previous. I had a 716 before, same size bed. It didn't lift nearly that high. I bet the bottom of that bed is 3 foot higher than my last one lifted. I don't know exact measurements, but what I can say for sure is that lifts higher. I don't know how much higher. And that may or may not seem like a big deal, but if you go from a 30 to a 40 to a 50 to a 60 degree angle, the amount of material that's going to dump smoothly without you hassling with it is a huge thing. And if you've ever had material setting up at the top of that dump, all that weight up in the air, and you're trying to figure out a way to like bang on the bottom of it or knock that material out, it makes a big difference. I just can't get over how high that lift goes. That's going to be fantastic for actually dumping the material out of your trailer, which of all the things I wanted to talk about, the extra lift height wasn't really on my radar. So while we've got this up in the air, we can see that there's a very large reinforced box for the lifting cylinder that goes up under the trailer, and there's a cutout inside the trailer you'll be able to see in a little bit. Something else that Liberty pointed out to me, and I went and looked at some other trailers after they said it, because I was at the National Association of Trailers Expo, that their C-channel under the bed is much closer together than the competitors that I looked at. And that really makes a big difference in build quality. And you can also see where our ramps are nested up under the bed here. I watched another video where another YouTuber was talking about the 6-inch I-beam frame. Well, this one is an 8-inch I-beam. And then this rail sets down inside of that instead of on top of it, which is a good thing because when you're loading equipment in a dump trailer, the height of the floor is really a big concern for you. Now, I mentioned that if you overload your trailer, the scissor hoist won't be able to handle it, but these types of cylinders can. It's because this is rated for 12 tons. And you can see that heavy I-beam runs all the way across the perimeter, and then we've got this tubing all the way across here, and then we've got C-channel as well. This has two 7,000-pound Dexter axles, and I was no expert on it, but I've been talking to a lot of people, and apparently these Dexter axles are absolute premium. High quality, reliable brakes. And when that sticker says American made, commercial grade, they take that as far as they can. And like I said, my other video shows every single step of this being built in-house. And the only things they're outsourcing at all is like the light kits and the tires and the wheels and the axles. But everything else is built in-house. But these wheels are even American made. Now, it's almost impossible to find an American made tire, but they've went to the trouble to get an American made wheel. You can see those are the Indiana Wheel Company, it looks like. Made in the USA sticker right on them. Okay, let's go ahead and let it down. You can see it comes down really fast. This is gravity down. You've got two types of lifting mechanisms besides the cylinder style. You have one type is power up and power down. The other type is power up and gravity down. And I'm not really sure which I prefer, but probably the gravity down. My first dump trailer was a power down. My second one was a gravity down. And what I noticed is if you're powering down, you're only going to get half as many runs out of your battery life. And the gravity down actually moves faster as well. One safety feature that I forgot to mention is the kickstand that will hold the bed up if you're working under it. And you can see that kickstand towards the front of the trailer. It's kind of hanging down, and it's got a pocket that it fits into. Now, this is something really unique, and they explained it to me that as they were building these models, and they said, we're going to run tubing across here. They said, why not go ahead and integrate that tubing into a useful feature? So they set this up as a place to store a set of pallet forks. So if you're taking a piece of equipment in this trailer, you're going to run out of length before you run out of weight capacity on most pieces of equipment. So what you can do is get that length back, because if you need to take forks with you, you can just stick them in the side, then run a strap across here to hold those in and not have to try to squeeze that extra length into your bed. And here we have our cargo cover. This works like I'm sure most of you guys have seen these setups before. You just pop this mechanism down and that'll let it free spool. These tarps are ideal if you're carrying loose material, but you don't want to try to strap all of it down. Just pop that into that little notch right there and then crank the handle to tighten it up. We're going to pop that up on the rail and reel it back in. Now, this doesn't exactly have a step, but this is a solid welded little fender flare. I don't know what you'd call it, but it doesn't look like a step, but it works perfectly well as a step. It's a pretty comfortable height to step in up inside the bed if you need to do anything. Now you can see there's our reinforcement box to strengthen that area of the trailer where the vertical lift connects. And then we've got D-rings welded to the wall and the floor in all 4 corners for attaching heavy equipment. Now, while I'm up here, I want to point out one of my absolute favorite things about this is as you look at the bed, there are no seams anywhere on this trailer inside the bed. It is a solid one-piece sheet bed. If you had an older dump trailer, you've seen that the floors where the seams were would scallop and material would hang up there, and it's just premature wear and aging on the trailer. And the secondary factor on that is a lot of times those floors were too thin as far as the actual gauge of metal on the floor. This is a 7-gauge floor. That's about as heavy as you're going to find on a dump trailer in this class. So then as we look at the side of the trailer, the fenders have that armor plate, gives it a nice texture if you need to get up there and stand on those for something. I'm not sure they recommend it, but I know I'll do it. Then we've got this rail here, which you can attach any kind of a strap or a cargo net or anything at any point down this. And then you've got these designated connection points here. Then on top, they've got what I think they called this like a super rail or something. But basically, you've got this tube across the top rather than just like a folded over lip. Gives it a lot more strength on the top of the trailer, and then that's reinforced here all the way down. Then you've got your stake pockets. That's pretty standard. On my first dump trailer, I wanted these sidewalls, so I built something out of 2x4s like this to set into the stake pockets. I found that to be really problematic because they were really heavy to get up there, and as wood dries and ages and gets hot and cold and contracts and the fasteners come loose, and over time, and even on day one, it was really hard to get those in. And if I cut the pockets, the stakes down where they fit in there looser, then they would flop around. But if I got them tight, and you're trying to fit those into 3 stake pockets, it was hard to get them down in there. So to me, if you're ever gonna remove these, doing it with these stake pockets was a hassle. Now it's nice to still have them, you can use them, but this system I think is a lot better. It's got these flanges built in with the bolt holes already there, so you can put your rail on and just a couple bolts, you can take that on and off quickly and easily. And even if you don't need the extra height, if your machine you're loading with will reach over this, then I would leave it 1 set of these on all the time because they're a protectant for your bed rail. Like if you mess up with your controls and you slam your bucket into this, you just damaged a 2x4 and not the rail on your awesome new trailer. So I think I will leave these on all the time, but I might set up a couple options. Or as a matter of fact, you could build a higher version of this with like 2 more 2x6s or whatever you wanted it to be, and then have your verticals on the back of that and just set those on top of here and then run a couple screws in, and you could easily adjust the height on these rails by just having those extra rails setting there the same way you would if you were using the stake pocket. So I really like the design of any of the dump trailers that have these built on for that top rail. This top rail that I was talking about earlier is called the Max Endurance Rail. To some of you, this next feature may seem like not that big a deal, but to me, this is everything. I think any dump trailer has to have these drop legs on the back. And there's a few reasons for it. The one I talk about all the time is loading equipment. That if you are loading equipment without these, just the geometry of these shorter trailers and how much weight is breaking over the back of them, a 10,000 pound machine will lift my truck all the way off the ground if I don't put something under the back of this. And I used to carry jack stands with me, but that's not as good of a solution. So in my mind, these are absolute must-have features on any dump trailer. I will say if you're loading equipment in here, don't drop the leg all the way down where it's touching the ground. Bring it up a couple inches so that it will only engage when the trailer really starts to squat. If you don't do that, you might get it under such a load that this is holding up and the trailer's trying to squat a fair and a normal amount, and then your leg's kind of stuck down. So I wouldn't put it all the way to the ground. I bring it up just a little bit. Now, I always talk about those drop legs in terms of loading equipment, but that's not the only application where you need them. Now, these dump trailers I've found to be well balanced, and you can actually have material in them while they're not hooked to a vehicle, but I'm always a little concerned about the stability. And if you need to disconnect your trailer, leave it there, load it, come back and get it, those give you an extra measure of security to know that it's not going to tip backward. And obviously it's got the big jack on the front, so it's not going to tip forward. All of the Liberty trailers are powder coated, and I showed that process in my last video. So the next thing we've got here is the rear gate. And I'm sure most of you have seen this style of gate before, but I'm going to show it to you anyway. So you can swing open if you want full dump. And then obviously you've got chains here. You hook your chains. Now you're locked in. And this is how you open it up if you want to do full dump. And while we're back here, before we do the tailgate option on this, I want to show you how the ramps are set up. You got a retainer pin here. You pull that out and your ramps slide out. Wow, that's a heavy duty ramp. This will squeeze way into the middle, so my narrow equipment like the mini skid steer will load in this fine. Man, I can't get over how heavy built that ramp is. That's really nice. This is a 6-foot ramp. The longer the ramp, the better when you're loading equipment. And I feel pretty good about that. That looks longer than the ramps on my last dump trailer, but I can't say for sure. But by the time you put down your drop leg and you put a little bit of an angle on this, this is going to give you a secure platform for loading that equipment. And as I mentioned earlier, it's got that solid one-piece deck that's going to hold up so much better. Then your other option for the rear gate is if you want a tailgate material, you use these chains right here. And a little bit of trial and error and the size of the aggregate you're using tells you how to hook these. But like right here, we're at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Let's say 6 on each side. You drop your chain in there, pop this pin out, and push that down. Now, this tailgate can swing open and let you tailgate the material out. I've got videos demonstrating how to do that already on the channel, and we'll be doing it again now that we've got the new trailer. Oh, and I just noticed that when that's lifted up, you put your same pin in there, so that holds it in place in the up position or the down position. So as I look at this, everything's heavy built. I mean, that's really thick steel there. You're not going to damage that. And then everything has grease points on it. See, you got your greasable hinges here. You've got your greasable spots on your suspension. Now earlier I was talking about the weight of this trailer, and with that 15,400 pound GVWR, the trailer itself weighs just over 4,000 pounds the way I have it optioned. That means you can put 11,000 pounds, 11,400, somewhere in that range of weight in the bed safely. That's 5.5 tons of stone. That is a 75 horsepower skid steer. It's a 5-ton excavator, maybe 4.5 tons since it's metric tons and you have to figure in the weight of the cab, but you can haul a pretty big machine in here. Another nice little feature I didn't know about when I was getting the trailer, but I just read in their information, is that these are not your old-fashioned trailer lights. These are LED trailer lights. Just a nice little bonus feature. Now, if you've got a business and you want your trailer to stand out, that's where you can add a wide variety of colors to make your business stand out. And I went with what they call, I think it's a Freedom Red. I'd have to look it up, but they've got some really cool colors that you can get your trailer in. And really, especially if you're going to put a matching logo on it for your business, it'll really make you stand out when people see you on the road. So must-have features for me, the vertical hoist. I think it's a huge improvement. Solid one-piece deck, huge improvement. Built-in top rail that accommodates your wooden sides, premium feature. The ability to tailgate with your back gate, premium feature. A nice long heavy built ramp, that's a premium feature. And then number one, obviously, is just the overall build quality. How heavy built is this? Is it just a cheap paint job, or is it a nice powder coat like this? And this trailer, for me, checks all the boxes without jumping up high in price. Because we could all show you the most impressive dump trailer you've ever seen, and it's $20,000. Well, that doesn't do most of us any good when $10,000 is all you can squeeze into your budget. So I think this is a really impressive trailer, and I can't wait to make a lot more videos using it. If you want to see how these are built, I'll put a link on the screen to show you that. I appreciate you taking time to watch, and I'll see you next time.